Do you want to gain a confidence so that you can explore the world as a solo female traveler, but you also want to make sure that you're doing it safely? Stick around because this is going to be the video for you. Welcome back to my channel. I am Ebony Yvonne, a full-time entrepreneur and part-time digital nomad. And since 2017, I have always been a solo female traveler. And one of the questions that people ask me all the time is, are you not scared to travel alone? And I'm like, no, like I don't just go out recklessly and go to any place. I'm always very safe when I travel, and I do take the necessary precautions to make sure that I am safe every destination that I go to. And in today's video, I want to share my safety best practices and tips with you so that you can have the confidence to go out there and explore the world on your own as well. I know for me, I got into solo female traveler in 2017 because I had a trip booked to Hawaii with some of my best friends, and literally the week before we were supposed to go on a trip, everyone had canceled but me, and I was like, I'm not canceling. I'm still going. Even if I have to go by myself, I am going, right? And that was one of the most rewarding experiences I ever had in my life. I spent 8 days in Maui. I did the road to Hana by myself in, I believe, like 15 hours. So it was a very rewarding experience, and it also helped me to boost my confidence to know that I could travel alone and not only still have a good time, but I could do it safely. So I want to go ahead and jump right into my 12 best life-saving tips to keep you safe and sound on your next solo journey. So first things first, and I say this whenever I do a travel tip video, before I plan anything, before I even think about going to any country, any destination at all, the first thing that I do is go to the official US government travel website, travel.state.gov, and I put in the destination that I want to go to, and I look at if there is any travel advisories. If it is level 3, if it's level 4, if it says reconsider travel or do not travel, your girl is not going to go. And this actually happened back in 2022. I did like slow travel through Southeast Asia, and one of the stops on my list was supposed to be Sri Lanka, but in the time when I was getting ready to go to Sri Lanka, it was a level 3 travel, reconsider travel, so your girl reconsidered, and I did not go because I checked the state website first and it said to reconsider travel. So that is always my first point of reference when it comes to booking any trip, any destination. What does the travel website say? Is this place even safe for me to go to? Not even just traveling as a solo female, but just travel in general. Even if I'm traveling in a group, I'm always going to go and check the travel.state.gov website first. All right, so in addition to checking that website, the next thing that I always do, tip number 2, is to research the destination that I'm going to. When I research the destination, I like to look at a lot of different sources. I will read travel blogs, I watch travel vlogs, I will join Facebook groups on that destination or Facebook groups of other solo female travelers, expats that may live in those countries or destinations. And I do my research. I look at cultural norms. I look at if there are any security risks. I look at if there is anything that I should like pay attention to, anything I need to note to be aware of my surroundings. I will research what areas to stay in, what areas to avoid, what type of criminal activity you may need to look out for. So petty theft, if people are likely to steal your camera, if there's any common tourist traps, I guess you would call them, where like, you know, people sometimes will target tourists to get money out of them, haggle them, hustle them, whatever. But I'll always do my research after I have checked the state website. Now, tip number 3 is to share my itinerary. Wherever I go, I will always share my itinerary with my close friends as well as my family. I do not go anywhere without sharing where I'm going and what I'm doing with my parents. I will tell them, hey, this is my flight number. It's supposed to leave at this time. I'm leaving this destination and I should arrive at this destination at this time. And even when I do that, I will always use like the local time where I'm going in that destination. And then I'll also share the local time back home. So I'll always tell my parents, okay, I'm going to this country. It's going to be 8 hours ahead. It's going to be 2 a.m. your time, but it's going to be 10 a.m. local time when I arrive, right? Once I actually arrive, I'll let them know I have landed. Once I get to my hotel, I let them know I have gotten to my hotel, my Airbnb. But it may seem like that is just being kind of like overdoing it, but anything can happen at any time. And so it is more beneficial, it's better to be safe than sorry, to have that paper trail in case something does happen to you. Then people could say, well, the last time she checked in, she said she was headed here, or the last time she checked in was when she got to the airport, right? And that is going to help any event that something does happen to you, or there is some type of emergency, that you can be contacted, or people could come look for you if they have to. But always share your itinerary with your family and friends so that people always know where you are. In the event that something happens, even if there's an emergency back home, there's a death in the family, whatever, like people know how to contact you. Even if your cell phone doesn't work, they can contact your hotel, right? So that is going to be tip number 3, to make sure that you share your itinerary so people know where you are at all times. Someone knows where you are at all times. And that kind of takes me into tip number 4 as well. And this is to stay connected. And this is something that I have to be honest, I am bad about this when I'm in the United States. I could go weeks without talking to my friends, to my parents, to family members. And people will be like, you good? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. And they'll be like, no, I need to hear your voice. Like FaceTime me or something, because I haven't heard from you in 2 weeks. Like, I know that this is how I am when I'm in the States, and it's mostly, I'm a full-time entrepreneur, okay? Like, your girl be busy. And in addition to that, I'm traveling too sometimes. So with that, when I am traveling, I try to make sure that I am more intentional about making sure that I stay connected and I stay in contact with family, even if that's just like a quick text message or sending a message on WhatsApp, even if it's posting on social media. So even with my family, if I'm only able to text, like I have a specific code words so that they know it's me texting and not some random stranger that has taken my phone pretending to be me, right? So you want to make sure that you stay connected. People don't go a prolonged period of time without hearing from you, especially if you have not shared your itinerary with them. All right, let's get into tip number 5. And tip number 5 is listen. Always, always, always trust your gut. If something does not feel right, it is probably not right. If something feels like it might be a scam, it's probably a scam, right? So you want to always trust your gut, listen to your intuition. I know this actually happened to me when I was in New Orleans one year for Mardi Gras, and basically like we had rented a car. We were trying to go to, I don't remember what parade it was, but it was one of like the really, really big ones. That's like one of the longer ones. And when we were trying to go to the parade, like all the roads were blocked off. There was hardly nowhere to park. And I remember we went down this one road and the guy was like, oh, y'all can park over here. He was like, yeah, just pull straight in the back. And like, my friend is like, all right. And I'm like, no, this is a setup. Like, we go back there, we ain't never coming out, right? And my friend was like, no, and trust me, I could feel it in my gut, the way the guy was looking. He kept looking like the way he told us to go. He kept like looking back there like he was signaling to somebody. And I was like, it's a no for me. We not going back there, right? But you have to trust your gut. If something does not feel right, trust that it probably isn't right. So I'm not going to harp on that for too long. Let's get into tip number 6. And tip number 6 is going to be to pack smart. And when I say pack smart, number 1, you want to pack light. You want to make sure that you label your suitcase. So any event that it gets lost, it has your name on it. It can be identified. And then in addition to that, and when you're packing, include a safety kit. So your safety kit can also be dubbed like an emergency kit, but this should be like any emergency medication. So like maybe if you have an allergic reaction or something, you get a bug bite, maybe if you get a cut, you have band-aids in there. Maybe you have a whistle, right? So in case somebody tries to abduct you, you could blow your whistle to get people's attention. But you want to put together a safety kit that is going to be lightweight. Of course, you don't want to take up all the room in your suitcase, but this lightweight that you can take with you when you travel that can help you in the event of emergencies, but also when it comes to your safety as well. So another thing to think about is grabbing pepper spray at your local destination. So most places in the US, you cannot take pepper spray through the airport, so don't even try, right? But depending on the destination that you're going to, it may be available. So you could always just buy some when you get there, and then that way you could carry it with you while you're at that destination, and then just throw it away before you go to the airport, because that can be an item that will be confiscated at most airports, especially here in the United States. All right. Now, let's get into tip number 7. When you are traveling, even if you're in a group, or especially when you're traveling as a solo female traveler, you want to make sure that you try to blend in as much as possible. And one thing that I hate is sometimes I'll watch travel vlogs of like Americans in other countries, and they clearly stick out, right? And it's because typically we tend to wear clothes that are more revealing. It's normal for a girl to wear like a short jean skirt or a spaghetti strap top, and while that is pretty much a norm here, you'll probably even see it a lot in a lot of European countries. But when you go to some of the more conservative countries, it's not necessarily against the law to them, but it is going to be something that's going to make you stick out if you have on clothes that are too tight or too revealing and things like that. So you do want to consider those things when you're traveling to another country and try to blend in as much as possible. And I'm not saying you got to go in there and put on a dashiki or anything to make like I'm the culture, right? But you do want to blend in and try to wear clothes that's going to be covering all of your main body parts and things like that. Don't wear a lot of bright colors, especially like one thing that's interesting, like in Asian countries, I noticed that they don't wear a lot of like bright colors. Like you don't see a lot of people in like pinks or red or blue. It's pretty much a lot of gray or black. So if you notice that that is going to be something about the destination that you're going to, then you may want to kind of downplay wearing a lot of colors as well. All right, let's get into tip number 8. And this is going to be to stay in safe accommodations and make sure you research the area you're going to be staying at as well as the actual accommodation. Now, this is another question that people ask me a lot when it comes to solo female travel. And this is, where do I stay? Do I stay in hostels? Do I stay in hotels? Do I stay in Airbnbs? Like, my preference is typically to stay in an Airbnb where I have more privacy and I have like the entire place to myself. But depending on the destination that I go to, the research that I've done, how safe I feel, sometimes I feel more comfortable staying in a hotel where I know I'm around other people. If something is to happen to me, there's a greater chance that people are going to see me. And then also just understanding the the customs and the culture in the area that I'm in. So if there's a country or a destination that, you know, women are not necessarily seen as equals, or women, you don't really see them independently on their own, then I'm more likely to probably stay at a hotel instead of me trying to stay in an Airbnb somewhere where I'm isolated and alone. All right, now let's get into tip number 9. And I know some of y'all are like, I'll go to travel so that I can turn up and party. But tip number 9 is to avoid nighttime travel as much as possible, especially if you don't know if it's safe for you in that destination. Now, there are some places where traveling alone at night is not that big of a deal. I think I mentioned this before in my review where I talked about things to know before going to Dubai. In Dubai, I often ended up walking back to my Airbnb on my own because I stayed on Palm Jumeirah, and there they do not pick you up for tours because it is supposed to be a residential area, and so they don't want to pick up locals to go on tours. I guess because of like the way their insurance is, I don't know. So whenever I would go on different excursions or activities, I would have to walk to a hotel. It wasn't that far away, but I would have to walk like 5-6 minutes to a nearby hotel so that I could be picked up to go on these excursions. And sometimes my excursions wouldn't come back to like 10 or 11 o'clock at night. And in those instances, when I was in Dubai, I felt absolutely safe to walk from the hotel back to my Airbnb on my own. So you want to make sure that you're just aware of your surroundings and you know your environment. But let's say that I was in New Delhi and my excursion was coming back at 11 o'clock at night. I most definitely would not be going on that excursion if I knew it wasn't coming back till 11. And even if I just had to go right across the street, I would not be doing that at night by myself, okay? So it's just really being aware of your surrounding and knowing the environment that you're in, and then making sure that you make smart decisions. So what was that? Tip number 9. Let's go ahead and get into tip number 10. And this kind of piggybacks on to try avoid being out late at night by yourself. And this is going to be to stay sober. So even if you do want to go out and enjoy the nightlife, try to do it with other people. But if you're going to drink, do not have a lot of drinks. Make sure you pay attention to your drinks. No one's not slipping anything in your drink. So you want to make sure that you try to avoid drinking if you can. But if you want to turn up, you want to have fun, you want to have drinks, make sure that you're paying attention and that no one is putting anything in your drink and your drink is not being compromised. Unfortunately, this is something that happens a lot, especially when you're in high tourist population areas. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention to your drink and making sure that no one else has access to it. All right, next up is going to be safety tip number 11, and this is to make sure that you have emergency contacts listed and you have them in multiple different places. So if you have an iPhone now has it to where you can list emergency contacts. So even if your phone is locked and you have some type of emergency, you pass out, and some emergency professional has your phone, they can actually access your emergency contacts and call your mom, your dad, your spouse, whoever in the event of an emergency, even if your phone is locked. In addition to having that emergency contact feature on iPhones, I'm not for sure if it's on Androids or not, but in addition to that, I would recommend making sure you always have emergency contacts in your passport. You also have emergency contacts on file if you're staying in an Airbnb, if you're staying in a hotel, so that in the event that something happens, there is someone who can be contacted on your behalf. And that takes me into tip number 12, kind of. And this is to make sure that you register with STEP. So STEP is, remember how I told you about the travel.state.gov website where you can go and you can check out for any travel restrictions or advisories that may be out there? Well, there's also a federal program that's a safe traveler enrollment program where anytime you are going to be traveling to another country, you can actually enter your travel information, your travel itinerary. So any event that there's any type of emergency, they know where you are and how you can be contacted. So enrolling in the STEP program is going to be beneficial. So let's say you're in a country and all of a sudden a civil war breaks out in the country. Number one, the US government is going to know that you are there. So even if there's like a hurricane, an earthquake, they know that you're supposed to be in that destination and they can make sure that you're safe. And if they need to make any type of travel arrangements or accommodations to help get you out of there, then the government can do that. Also, you can add your emergency contacts in STEP as well. So any event that something happens, your family can be contacted on your behalf. So there you have it. Those are my 12 life-saving travel tips for you. Make sure that you do take these seriously. You're aware of your surroundings and you prepare for your trips ahead of time. Even if you're a pro and you've been doing solo travel for a while, you never want to get too comfortable and start skipping over some of these safety tips that I gave you. I know sometimes even for me, because I do travel so much, sometimes I like, oh, I'll send my parents my itinerary once I get there, right? And then I have to check myself real quick and I be like, no, like something can happen on that flight and then you ain't even getting on the flight information. So you're going to stop what you're doing right now and you're going to send them this travel information. And so you want to make sure that you're not being lax and you do incorporate these safety travel tips into your everyday or your normal travel routine. Let me know down in the comments below this video, did you find any of these tips helpful? Do you have any other travel tips that you would love to share? What are some things that you do before or during or even after a trip to make sure that you're always safe and you can travel with confidence and ease? Let me know all the tea down below in the comments below this video. Thanks so much for stopping by my internet home. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe and turn on those notifications so you'll be the first one to get notified anytime I upload another video just like this. Bye, y'all.